Good morning, Sac City. Welcome in to another edition of Pigskin and Pancakes presented by the Sac City Podcast. I'm not going to do any more intros because we are finally welcoming back to the show the man, the myth, the legend. He is ya boy, AJ Johnson.
Yeah.
AJ, how goes it, buddy?
Man, it feels right. It feels right. That you remember the green light theory we had from day one. When that green light goes on, it just feels different. I may have said this before, but I feel like it is accurate each time. It has never felt so good to see that green light go on. I've missed you guys. I've enjoyed listening to you guys. We're supposed to talk good about the show. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. This show is so easy to listen to. Like while I was unpacking my house and my apartment and just listening to you guys talk about all the week one stuff. Very sad I couldn't rebuttal 90% of everything y'all said. But now I'm back, and now I can do that, and it's so great to be back with you guys. As always, thanks for holding it down and putting up with me and my antics and busyness. So fantasy football, baby, week 2. Now to get another win.
Well, there's one thing you couldn't have rebutted on, and it was the Atlanta Falcons and the Los Angeles Rams game because I forgot to even cover that in our NFC preview. Completely skipped over it. We missed it. It was on me because I'm an idiot. But I digress.
We should just do that right now. We should just do that.
You want to do it? You want to do it real quick?
Let's do it right now. Let's preview the Rams and the Falcons game right now.
Let's go. All right. So hold on. Let me get my doc ready here. Let me get my doc ready. Were you about to say something?
You were faster than I thought you were going to
be. I'm very quick. Okay, got it. So the Los Angeles Rams host the Atlanta Falcons. The Rams are at 1-0 after 0-1 after losing to the Buffalo Bills. The Falcons 0-1 after losing to the New Orleans Saints. The Rams are 10-point favorites in this game with an over/under of 46.5 points. AJ, after the Falcons gave the Saints a tough time last week, what do you think that they need to do in this game to give a tough time to the Rams?
Hold your lead. If you ever get one, hold it. Stop giving things away. Now I'll be the first to say 14, 16 points to me in an entire half is not a lot. I've never felt comfortable with a team being up by 14 or 16 points in an entire half of football. However, if you're going to pace it that way, if you're going to have 21 points in the first, keep going, keep pacing. So this time, hold the ball, run the ball. I know Damian Williams is out, but Cordero Patterson had tons of touches last week. I think you'll see a debut from Tyler Algier, and while I'm not expecting much, he is a different style, a different change of pace back that can be brought to that offense. And then Kyle Pitts will be more in-depth this week, will be used a little bit differently, utilized the way he should be. Between him and the tandem of what Drake London was able to do on his debut, 7 receptions, 77 yards, I like that type of outing. Now, obviously, you have a much high-powered offense on the Rams side of the ball, and this Atlanta defense is going to have fits trying to keep up with them and trying to stop them, and that will be the problem. But if you can pace your offense, which is shown to be a little bit better than most people have thought it would be so far, I think you have enough to make it an interesting game for at least 3 quarters.
Aaron?
He said the magic words, 3 quarters, because that's all the Atlanta Falcons played was 3 quarters. And to AJ's point, the double-digit leads, in the NFL, it happens. But they were a 2-touchdown. They had a 2-touchdown lead in the fourth quarter, not just in the second half. It was in the fourth quarter, and they gave it up. So this, classic 28-3 Falcons jokes come out after this. The ghost of Dan Quinn, just like all of these things, the onside kick against Dallas, like things like this have been happening to the Atlanta Falcons over the past couple of seasons. And it just goes to show you they're a bad football team. And I don't mean they can't win a game, and I don't mean they can't compete, because they showed they can do that. But at the end of the day, they are a bad football team, and bad football teams find ways to lose games, and good football teams find ways to win games. And that's been the story of any sport in any.
It's been a thing.
World that I've ever lived in. And if you're good, you just find a way to win. I know I cut out. Just keep rolling with it, AJ. It happens every day. My internet's not great right now. I don't know. We just keep moving.
You brought up the good teams find ways to win, the bad teams find ways to lose, this and that. Well, the Rams were losers in week 1, not to say that they are a bad team, but they did fall to arguably the best team in the league. But they lost. plain and simple, they didn't have that great of a game. Who needs to have a better game this week for the Los Angeles Rams?
Who are you talking to?
I said
okay,
you.
you're talking to me.
Yeah, I said you. That's what I said.
The offensive line. We talk about the offensive line play and the inability to run the football or the inability to protect Matt Stafford. It's the offensive line. I thought that was their biggest weakness against Buffalo week 1. Although they were overmatched, although Buffalo's a better football team, the Rams' offensive line, I mentioned it before the season started in the season preview. I thought they had some concerns there. You lose your left tackle, you move Joe Noteboom in that role, and then you lose Logan Bruss. Like, there are guys that are on that offensive line last year, some depth pieces. They now lost another piece of their offensive line, and it's going to be kind of a like patchwork on that O-line, and they need to get that thing that unit to be cohesive and one unit to protect Matt Stafford and be able to get that running game involved if they want to have a chance to continue to get where they were at last year. I think it's all predicated on that offensive line and if they're able to protect Matt Stafford.
There you go. Predictions?
I'll go first. I'll tell you, I think the Rams bounce back in a big way. I think the Rams win this game 31-19.
42-14 Rams.
It's about where I was at. I had it at 33-18 Rams.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into some
official.
let's get into some fantasy talk. We've got a great fantasy show ahead of us. We're going to be diving into rankings, start sits, sleepers, streamers, and our DFS play. We've got so much to talk about for fantasy. Let's start with the running back rankings from Aaron. He has Jonathan Taylor at number 1, Saquon Barkley at 2, Christian McCaffrey in that same game at 3, Dalvin Cook 4, Javonte Williams 5, and Aaron Jones sitting at number 6. Looking at the rest of your rankings here, you know what? Actually, I'll give AJ the shot here. AJ, welcome back, buddy. What do you think about Aaron's first half of his rankings? What's good? What's bad? What do you like?
Well, I actually like Aaron Jones at number 6 this week. We saw what A.J. Dillon did last week and was a stud in that game. And while I do think he's going to be used quite well, they made it a point that they want to get Aaron Jones more involved in this game this upcoming week against the Bears. Aaron Rodgers talked about on the Pat McAfee show he wants to get the ball to Aaron Jones a little bit more as well. Not that they're taking A.J. Dillon out, but Aaron Jones is going to have a great line with targets, with receptions, and probably a couple more carries this week. To get his stat line and his fantasy line all together a little bit higher. So I think Aaron Jones slotting in at 6 is a really nice spot. And then it's always, you say this all the time, you want to move somebody up, who are you taking out? And it's kind of hard to do that. But I think Nick Chubb also has another chance of being a little bit higher on this list than he is as of right now. Once again, the second back in the backfield, Kareem Hunt, was outstanding last week. But this Jacoby Brissett is not outstanding, and they are going to get right back to what they do in Cleveland, and that's run the ball and run it heavy. And the Jets aren't where they need to be on defense yet. They are growing and they are getting better, but it's only 2 weeks in. And if you remember us last year talking about defenses, what we thought after 2 weeks, a lot of them turned around after the 2-3 week mark. So while the Jets are still kind of lowly, I think if you look at Nick Chubb and what he's going to be able to do between the tackles, I think he has a chance to be slightly higher on this list. But again, who do you bring down? So in a good spot. It's still top 10. We're splitting hairs there. So those are my two that I would look at there. Pretty good.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. There is one player on your list here, though, that in the top 12 that isn't splitting hairs. You actually just dropped them like 5 minutes before showtime. It's DeAndre Swift now going to number 8 on your list. You actually had him much higher before we did this show, but you dropped him down to 8. Why did you do that, Aaron?
Yeah, I originally had him at number 2, to be honest. And if he was fully healthy, he would be number 2. They said he's playing, but I do worry about the limiting of the snaps and maybe mixing in some time with the Jamal Williams there. This has nothing to do with the talent of DeAndre Swift. Obviously, I like I said, he would be my number 2 running back this week if I felt like he was 100% full complement. But he is dealing with a little bit of an issue. They have a good running game, a really good offensive line, so I do expect them to split some time today just to make sure they're managing his carries. You do not want to have him be out next week or be out the following week. So I don't know that he gets a full workload like we saw last week, but not that Jamal Williams didn't get the ball last week. They use both of those guys heavily, but I don't expect 25 touches from DeAndre Swift today. Maybe he's only at the 10 to 12 or 12 to 15 mark. But I still think that can return with his ability, that can return you top 12 value. And so I pushed him down a little bit as a result of just not knowing how much he's actually going to be used. If they give him more than I think, then I think he can rise. If they give him less than I think, then I think he'll come somewhere into that RB2 category. But right now, if I'm envisioning, I think he'll get about 12 to 15 touches. And to me, that'll get him a top 12 day.
Okay. All right. AJ, you okay with the rest of his? That's not it. This list. Any name that you want to?
I'm not even going to speak on it. I'm going to ask on it. There's a lot of speculation about Najee Harris coming in this week. He had what looked like a bad injury last week, but said he's going to play. Looks like he's going to play. You're going up against the one side of the New England team that was actually pretty decent last week in the defense. I see you have him at 11. Is that a good slot for him? Or you expect him to maybe outperform that? Or are you expecting it to be a little less?
No, I think he can handle 11. I think last week was a poor offensive performance against, first of all, a really good run defense. You got to remember Cincinnati was one of the top defenses last year against the run. I don't think they're that bad against the run. Not that New England is great or not great against the run, but New England struggled against the run last week. But let's be honest, Chase Edmonds is not your typical running back. Chase Edmonds got 12 carries, only ran for 25 yards, but he's also not that typical pounded in there type of running back like you would expect from a Najee Harris. So I expect Najee to be more involved. I think that Pittsburgh offense got a little complacent when they went up, and I know he had 10 for 23 last week. I think he can find his way into the end zone again. And remember, he's also used in the passing game. He did score a touchdown last week in the passing game, which obviously inflated his value a little bit. He still ended up with double-digit points. I think when you start talking about running backs from a week-to-week basis, you look for consistency. And when you get double digits from a running back, that's a good thing because you're searching for that every week. Now, there's usually guys that get there, but are they in our starting lineups? Not often. Sometimes those guys, I don't think anybody started Jamal Williams last week. I don't think anybody started Rex Burkhead last week. You know what I mean? Unless they were in like your deep league flex spots. Those are the guys. But as far as your RB1s and RB2s, you're not starting those guys consistently. So you have to count on a Najee Harris because you spent a high draft pick on him. So we're not to the point of the season where you're benching him. So you got to put him in there. And if you can get double digits points from him today, I think you're sitting okay with that. And I think that's where he falls.
Okay. Moving to your 13 through 24, your RB2 position here, Antonio Gibson just outside of the top 12, followed by Josh Jacobs, Leonard Fournette, Zeke, Miles Sanders, and a new addition of Darrell Henderson to 18. No Cam Akers on this list. Darrell Henderson at 18. Aaron, how you feeling about Mr. Henderson in the Los Angeles Rams?
Yeah, with Sean McVay, I'm always scared. So, because it easily could be like, all right, we did Darrell Henderson last week. Now let's show everybody we could do Cam Akers this week. I just fully cannot trust what the Rams are going to put out there in the running game. I'm not sure I can 100% trust what Darrell Henderson's going to give. Otherwise, he might be higher on that list. But I think he's going to be the guy to get the first opportunity, and I think that's big in a Sean McVay offense. You get the first opportunity, and if you don't mess up, then you're probably going to get the most opportunities. And I think that's where I kind of lean with Darrell Henderson. I think he'll get an opportunity to touch the ball 15 times today against a lackluster Atlanta defense that played really well for part of the game last week and then not so well at the end. So, and the Rams are going to move the football. They have a good offense. They have a good quarterback. The Rams will be fine. And I think Darrell Henderson will get his targets, will get his carries, probably get some goal line looks, and find a way to have a productive fantasy day.
So let me just ask this follow-up question with that, and then I'll let AJ take over this back half. Cam Akers owners seeing this yet again would be you invest in pretty much RB2 value of Cam Akers in the draft. Again, if he does not make it into the RB2 status here, it's another probably down week for Cam Akers. If you're a Cam Akers owner, what are you doing with him right now?
Well, right now you're not starting Cam Akers. So no matter what you invested in him after last week, it's not like a Najee Harris where you're worried about an injury or something like that. You invested in Cam Akers, and now you're like, okay, I can't start him until I see that he actually plays. So you have to have some other option in that sense. I think that you just sit him on your bench and you continue to wait. Unless somebody wants to trade you and give you some value, you're probably just holding Cam Akers right now. Because remember, again, Darrell Henderson does have an injury history and has been banged up in the past. So 3-4 weeks in, if you drop him and Darrell Henderson goes out, we talked about this, then what? Now you've given up probably arguably one of the best handcuffs in football, because I doubt Jake Funk is going to be the guy.
Hey man,
don't sleep on the Funk.
Don't you dare disrespect the Funk Master, okay? AJ, your thoughts on the back half of the of his running back rankings?
Yeah, I'm gonna go this way with the best person I think has a chance to sneak into the top 12, that RB1. It's your dog, Josh Jacobs. I think he's gonna have himself a really good day. You look at what was done to Arizona on the ground last week, and I think that can continue with Josh Jacobs. Imagine they don't give 17 targets to Devontae Adams this week, and instead of it being 4 or 5 targets elsewhere, they actually give 3 or 4 carries to Josh Jacobs and just give him that much more run. I think Josh Jacobs has himself a good day and a good chance to get into the RB1 slot. And then a guy that I think will drop. And once again, it's one of your guys, and I know you're so sick of hearing it, but I'm worried about Ezekiel Elliott this week. I think up against Cincy, they're going to have a tough go. I think they're not going to be ready to really think Cooper Rush is going to hurt him so much, so he may face a couple more 8-man boxes. He may be getting Tony Pollard more involved in this game so they can have some more pass catchers and some Cooper Rush outlets. So I think he has a day. I mean, of course, unless he's getting into the end zone, obviously, but I think he has a day that may be slightly less and drop into below 20s. Those are the 2 guys I have my eyes on in this back half.
Well, first of all, we got to stop saying the name Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard is not a thing, okay? I know we want him to be a thing. He's not a thing. Tony Pollard's a decent player. He's not a thing.
Wait. All I said was he would succeed some time to him. I didn't say he's going to take over the backfield for him today. The fact remains, if you're losing any touches to somebody, it's going to be Tony Pollard. That's all I mean, is that some of the carries, some of their targets, some of the snaps.
How much more time could Tony Pollard actually get?
I mean, when it's not Dak Prescott and when you're trying to protect your team from what could Cooper Rush. I don't care how many times Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore say, we believe in Cooper Rush. The fact remains.
No, what I'm saying is Tony Pollard played a number of snaps, touched the ball a number of times in week 1 and did absolutely nothing with it. When you're watching, to me, this is my only argument for Zeke being higher. I agree with you. Cincinnati's run defense is good. I think Cowboys will struggle a little bit to run the football, but they have to run the football because they can't put the ball in the hands of Cooper Rush. Watching Tony Pollard play last week, I was cringing. I told Vinny this when we did our recap. He is not good on third downs. He is not a between the tackles every down runner. He looked significantly worse at the running back position than Ezekiel.
But do you think
watches that game?
Do you think though that the Cowboys and Kellen Moore have recognized that and are not going to be okay? That's the thing here, because you can say Tony Pollard isn't a thing, but last week he only had 2 less touches than Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott 11 touches, Tony Pollard 9 touches. I mean, that's my point. And look at the efficiency. Right,
and I'm not even talking about the
11-8.
touches. I'm not even talking about the touches. And I get this might not be directly related to fantasy football, but I'm telling you how many times Tony Pollard was on the field on third down and was forced to stay in and help block, and he could not block anything. He couldn't stand in front of anybody. And so because of that, when you want to protect your quarterback and you have a weaker offensive line, now Ezekiel Elliott has to play on those third downs. Right? Unless you're just splitting Tony Pollard out as a receiver, he has to play on third down, which means more opportunities for screens, for out of the backfield stuff for Zeke. I'm not saying Zeke's going to have a great day, but I do think that we see more volume from him this week. And I think the volume alone, with how efficient he's able to be, can vault him into that middle of an RB2 category. And then if he falls into the end zone, you're like, okay, that's what I expect from Zeke.
You're saying that the Cowboys are going to recognize that the Tony Pollard ain't it, and Ezekiel Elliott.
So.
That's pretty much what I hear here is because again it has been in the past they have used Tony Pollard and he has been a factor. So you're saying he has not been efficient, and the Cowboys need to recognize that. I get it. That's perfectly fine. Another player on this list that I'm worried about and I'm concerned with is Dameon Pierce. We don't have to talk about him, but I see him there in your top 24. I hope he returns that value. I don't know if I should start him or Michael Carter. And now seeing your list, I'm like, man, I don't know, because you have them boom, boom. So I'm not sure where I need to go with that. I digress.
I think you have to eat crow with Dameon Pierce this week. That's all. Like, I think he can end up there, but you have to see it. I mean, like, unless you have no options, you don't put him in your lineup, in my opinion.
As of right now, I have Michael Carter over Dameon Pierce just because of that's how I have it. That's how I have it.
Well, because you have it that way because you saw it last week. Let's be honest. That's why. But also, you have to take into consideration what you saw last week. Michael Carter was 10 for 60, but Michael Carter also caught 7 passes. And a lot of that was dumping off late in the game. They're down. It was him and Breece Hall. They were just checking down. Does that happen again? That's really what you have to look at, because I'll be honest, I'm sold that Lovie Smith recognized Dameon Pierce needs to be more involved. I do think he plays more on first and second down still, and not as much on third down. I still think Rex Burkhead takes that passing down role, but the between the tackles carries are going to go to Dameon Pierce. And if they get in the red zone, I think he's the one that's going to touch the ball. I think Dameon Pierce finds a way in the end zone this week. I thought Rashad Penny ran well against Denver's defense. I think Houston can run well against Denver's defense. I like Dameon Pierce this week. Again, back end RB2 flex play. That's really what you're wanting from him. If you wanted more from that, he was never going to be that anyways.
Yeah. And again, I'm dealing with a lot of injuries, so this is what it has come down to. Let's go to your wide receivers here, 1 through 12. Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, and Tyreek Hill round out your top 6 here. AJ Johnson, how about you tell us what you like, what you don't like, or a player that brings you some question?
I think Amon-Ra. I like Amon-Ra. I want to say I think he can be higher. I think that what we saw from him last week, I think you're going to continue to see that consistency going for his 8th game in a row with 8 or more catches. I think it's only, 2 receivers in the history have done that. Washington's defense performed better than we expected for week 1. I don't know if the consistency keeps up. And Detroit's offense performed better in week 1. Their offensive line play was good. If Frank Ragnow is going to be in, if their offensive line stays healthy, what they were able to do, I think you're going to see them throw the ball a little bit more with the questions to DeAndre Swift and what Jamal Williams is going to bring. I like Amon-Ra. I think he has the potential to be a little bit higher in this week. But if not, I mean, I think 11 is a very good slot for him. And then I am loving this 4 and 5 matchup, Justin Jefferson and AJ Brown. I mean, if they both end up in the top 5, well, take fantasy out of it. We're up for a very good Monday Night Football game. Justin Jefferson might be the best in the game right now, as Aaron Rodgers said it. So I like where your head's at with the top 5 matchup there.
Aaron, when you are you frozen? He is frozen.
No, he's in disbelief. I didn't say much.
Oh, I thought you were talking, Vinny.
No, I was. I didn't know if you were about to come in because you're frozen. But where I have the question is Courtland Sutton at 10. We saw Jerry Jeudy last week have the I don't want to say the better game between the two, but he had the better game between the two, obviously, with that touchdown. Both had 7 targets last week. Jerry Jeudy just did a little bit more and also had that touchdown. You're still sticking to your guns, and you have Courtland Sutton at 10 and saying he's going to be the guy for Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, playing 95% of the snaps. He's on the field, 7 targets in a game, which Russell Wilson did not target a wide receiver in like the first quarter and a half of the football game. Again, I don't react every week based on what happened the week before. You can't get those fantasy points. So Jerry Jeudy might have outperformed him last week, but I've got to go trade for Jerry Jeudy. I don't get last week's points. To me, Courtland Sutton is going to be the wide receiver 1 here. Jerry Jeudy had a big play. Great for him. He's capable of doing that. But I think consistency, when you talk about getting the targets and being able to maneuver down the field, third down, run those deep digs, those ends, those deep posts, I think that's Courtland Sutton. I think he's going to be the one that benefits the most from having Russell Wilson there. That has not changed. I think Courtland Sutton is fine as a top 10 receiver. If he gets the touchdown last week, we're having a different conversation about him this week. It was just Jerry Jeudy. So I'm not worried about that from week to week. I think Cortland Sutton is going to be the wide receiver 1 in that offense.
All right, let's take a look at the back half here. Your wide receiver 2s, DJ Moore, Brandon Cooks, Mike Evans, DK Metcalf, Jalen Waddle, Amari Cooper. We do have news, and we're going to get into our inactives and inactives. But Mike Evans is active here. Pretty much every wide receiver for the Bucs didn't practice this week. But Mike Evans seems to be the lone survivor out of those guys because Julio Jones is also out. Aaron, do you have any concern with Mike Evans at 15 with the injury, with the injury reports this past week?
No, I think he was always going to play. I have no concerns about the injury report. I have concerns about Marshawn Lattimore and the fact that he's been really good against Mike Evans. But when you have Tom Brady and all those other guys out, you have to assume that Mike Evans is going to get involved. I look for also a couple of like check downs today. Rashad White might have a big day. Leonard Fournette out of the backfield might catch some more passes. But I'm not concerned about Mike Evans, the injury. I thought he was always going to play. I thought they were more precautionary sitting him out than it was actual injury. Again, football starts. People are going to be banged up. Every week, these guys are going to be questionable, missing practices, especially veterans. So you kind of have to be able to separate real injuries from just trying to manage them throughout the week so they can get on the field on Sunday. And I think that's what Mike Evans was doing. So not worried about the injury, but obviously you have to have some concerns about Marshawn Lattimore and the success he's had against Evans.
AJ, your thoughts on the back half?
I just began to really like Jalen Waddle in this game. Marcus Peters is going to make his debut today. I think he'll be seeing a lot of Tyreek Hill. Of course, obviously, Marlon Humphrey's in that mix as well. But I like the way they got Jalen Waddle the ball. I know the targets were a little less than you expected for him, but that's trying to figure out if Tyreek Hill is going to get more, if Jalen's going to get more, if they're going to get Cedric Wilson involved. I like Jalen Waddle got saved last week by a big play. I think this week he gets saved by some extra targets. So I like Jalen Waddle this week. And then Hollywood Brown is up in the air for me. I think Kyler's going to want to get him the ball more often. I just don't know if it's going to happen the way they are. But if there's a team for it to get against, it's going to be the Las Vegas Raiders, whose corners are not up to par as of now. So I think Hollywood Brown has another good opportunity to be the guy they wanted him to be while DeAndre Hopkins is suspended. So those are the two guys I have my eye on. And I really wish T. Higgins was a 1:00 game because I need to know if he's playing.
Well, what do you do in that situation? So tell fantasy owners and walk us through what you are doing in that situation, not knowing what T. Higgins' status is and what maybe they should be doing.
So I have two options with the T. Higgins. I went out and I picked up Paris Campbell. He is probably going to be the number 1 wide receiver in Indianapolis with Michael Pittman out, Alec Pierce out. The fear you have there is Paris Campbell has not been a fantasy relevant wide receiver for years, but now you're talking about opportunity. The other problem in that is maybe this opportunity now goes to Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines. The other option is I'm lucky enough to have Tyler Boyd. And if Tyler Boyd is out, or if T. Higgins is out, Tyler Boyd is going to be the next man up. It's just do you wait for that to happen, and then you're stuck with Tyler Boyd if T. Higgins plays and have to hope that they can spread the ball around to those 3 receivers enough for Tyler Boyd to play off as unfortunately my wide receiver 2 in that certain league. So those are the options I'm left with if T. Higgins is out. And I'm leaning closer to the Paris Campbell just because he'd be the number 1.
I like how you brought up Alec Pierce and his name. Alec Pierce has nothing to do with Paris Campbell, by the way. Just nothing.
Well, no,
Paris
but
Campbell,
if Michael Pittman was out, Alec Pierce would have had more opportunity. But Alec Pierce
you just love your Alec
so
Pierce.
The fact that he's out too. Not even a little bit.
Alec Pierce dropped a touchdown last week and got a concussion. Like he's not good. Like
when you put it in that sentence.
The dude literally drops a wide open touchdown and then gets hit in the head and gets concussed. I'm done with Alec Pierce. That whole conversation and narrative. I'll be honest. I'd worry about all the Bengals receivers today, whoever's in the lineup. I think the Dallas Cowboys defense is really good. They might not have the offense to keep up with the Cincinnati in this one, but even last week, outside of the Mike Evans back shoulder touchdown, none of those receivers really had great days. And then so that to the Cincinnati receivers, all of them kind of get pushed down a little bit for me this week. And then also, you talked about Hollywood Brown. The reason he's actually so low, because I actually liked what I saw from him last week in limited targets, is because the Raiders defense played really, really well against the Chargers last week. Receivers like Justin Herbert only had 279 yards passing, and I know it sounds like a lot, but it's Justin Herbert, and he's usually over 300. None of those receivers had great days against the Raiders. The Raiders defense is significantly better this season than it has been in the past. So I do worry a little bit about Hollywood Brown, which is why he's down where he's at, because if not, he would be up further. I was encouraged by the lack of volume and him still being able to get the touchdown and produce, especially with Rondale Moore being out again.
Let's take a look at your quarter. Yeah, he's still dead. Quarterbacks here: Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Russell Wilson, Trey Lance, Kirk Cousins. You got Cuzzy at number 5. That might have something to do with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert already playing, but Kirk Cousins at number 5, Matthew Stafford at number 6. You're shaking your head behind the scenes here. Cuzzy at 5, man. It
has nothing to do with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. It has everything to do with the shit burger of the Philadelphia Eagles defense that I've seen in week 1. That's what it has.
Kirk Cousins would still be number 5 if Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert were on this list.
Depending on who they're playing, he would be high, is what I'm saying. If you look at the list, I get that. No. I'm not going to let you do that. Bring the list up. Because he's also ahead of guys like Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, Kyler Murray, all guys that are.
Yes.
Let me finish. Who are always significantly higher than Kirk Cousins. So you're saying he's at number 5 because of Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. There's 2 quarterbacks that play every Thursday night. So yes, everybody's going to have some sort of inflated value on a Sunday. But that is not why Kirk Cousins is at 5. He's at 5 because they're playing Philadelphia. And the Philadelphia defense is still having to prove to me that they are good because they let Detroit walk up and down the field on them. And it's exactly what I said before the season. Until they show me, I'm not going to believe it. The Chargers through 2 weeks have shown me their defense is improved. The Philadelphia Eagles have yet to do that.
They'll do it on Monday Night Football, except for Justin Jefferson.
So Justin Jefferson goes off, and you're saying that's proving their defense is good? Because last week Justin Jefferson went off.
No. What I'm saying is outside of Justin Jefferson, their defense will be good because no one is, in my opinion, is stopping Justin Jefferson except Justin Jefferson. If Justin Jefferson plays bad, it's because he wasn't feeling good that day. That's about it. That's what I'm saying. Kirk Cousins on Monday Night Football. I ain't worried.
2-9. Kirk Cousins on Monday Night Football. So Cuzzy at 5. Then you got Lamar at 7. Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, Kyler Murray. Down on Mr. Brady, I see.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's 0-4 and thrown 8 interceptions in his 4 matchups with the New Orleans Saints, and it's on the road, and they're without some of their weapons. You have to be down on Brady.
Yeah.
Could he prove me wrong? Sure. It's Brady.
Everything is against Brady for this week against the Saints. Like I know in my predictions I gave y'all for this week, I was like, the Bucs get a win against the Saints finally. And then I hear that every single receiver that they own, that's horrible, they have on their roster wasn't playing, is injured, is dead. And now even if they can play, you got Mike Evans and Russell Gage. You know, it's Tom Brady, so you put him in the top 12, but everything against them, it being the Saints, the wide receivers being hurt, Tom Brady being old finally. Their offensive line play.
I'm trying to hedge your bet now.
I'm not hedging it.
Alvin Kamara, the best player for the Saints, is out.
I kept it. I didn't say I'm changing anything. I'm just explaining that everything is against them in this week. And you know, at 11, that's a good spot. It makes sense because the only way you're benching him is if you have any of those 10 people ahead of him. So in most cases, if you have Tom Brady, you drafted him late and you're playing him. So it is what it is.
There you go. Back half of your quarterback rankings here: Justin Fields, same as Jameis Winston, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Tua Tagovailoa, and Baker Mayfield. What you laughing at, Giggly Bits?
I'm sorry. Anytime I get just a solo at J-Mo's face, it always looks like his photos are right after one of his crazy workouts, and that's all I can ever think about. And it's chuckle-worthy. It's absolutely chuckle-worthy.
Well, Jameis is probably the best. I feel like is the best player to get into the top 12 out of this list. I know you have Justin Fields at 13, but Jameis Winston in this game. What do you guys expect, Aaron? What are you expecting from Jameis Winston in this game?
I think he's going to struggle, to be honest. I mean, I think he'll be okay, but I don't think he's going to have some significant improvement from what we've seen since Jameis has been with the Saints. I don't think this is not the same Jameis Winston with Tampa when he was throwing for 350 and 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Like, it's a different offense. They use him differently. He has good weapons on the outside, but I don't see a significant game from Jameis Winston. The thing with Jameis is you want to manage and limit the turnovers, right? If you do that, usually he plays pretty well. I think that's really what they're focused on. So from a fantasy perspective, I expect Jameis to be in the middle, 230, 40 yards passing, a couple of touchdowns, maybe. I just don't see him being able to get into that top 10, especially with the defense of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think they have a good defense. I think Jameis will struggle at points, but I also think he'll do enough, because I did pick the Saints in this one, to get a win in this game. But from a fantasy perspective, I don't think he creeps into the top 12. So if you're really looking at a quarterback 2, unless you're worried about the other side, like maybe you have a Brady and a Jameis Winston on the same team, and you decide to go Jameis today, I may not be mad at that, but you're still praying, right? Because it's Jameis Winston versus Tom Brady. So QB2 for me, but I think that's really his upside this week.
Trey Lance,
Pete, welcome back, Pete. Well, hey, show him my rankings. Where do I have Trey Lance? Show him my ranking. I think Trey Lance bounces back in a big way. I think he has a significantly better day than that monsoon of a game that he had in Chicago. The running game alone will keep him relevant all season long, especially now you have Elijah Mitchell out. The goal line carries he's going to get between him and Debo. I think the passing game, they open it up now, obviously without the rain. I think Trey Lance is destined for a top 5 finish this week. Good things are coming for Trey Lance. I know people were a little worried about that week 1, but it was a damn monsoon. Yes, sir.
I don't mean to be the meteorologist here in this game, but there's also supposed to be rain. There's rain in the forecast and heavy winds.
It's not rain. That wasn't rain, Vinny. Yeah. That was a monsoon.
I know. I'm not saying it's going to be a monsoon again, but the weather is. There's a lot of people talking about how bad the weather is going to be for this game.
Well, the weather outside is weather.
Yeah.
That's how it's going to be. It's fine. He'll be all right.
I'm honestly not worried about weather in San Francisco in the middle of beginning part of September. I'm from California. I think it'll be okay.
Yeah. Last week he was scrambling through puddles. Like
that was not rain. That was ridiculous.
when you can win the game and swim on the field, I feel like that was different. Like it's a little. I think this is more obtainable for him. I really like Trey Lance in this as well. I've had people try to come for me for Trey Lance for like 2 weeks now, where all last week for trades, thinking I was going to freak out. I was like, "Calm down. You're not getting him. Just chill." Like.
To the other note for this weather is it's supposed to be super windy. Like it's supposed to be.
Well, it's always windy in the Bay Area.
Well, there you go. All right, let's go on. Let's go on to your tight end. It's not windy. It's pretty windy up here in Connecticut, but I digress. Your tight ends here: Mark Andrews, Darren Waller, Kyle Pitts, Dallas Goedert, the Muth, T.J. Hawkinson. Round out your top 6. I do believe George Kittle was ruled out, and this is great that George Kittle is on this list, but I'm pretty sure he was ruled out.
Well, he was moved down. He was moved down because of that issue that he possibly might not play, but I'm not going to take him out of my rankings just because he's questionable to play and he has to work out before the game. The man is a warrior. He tries to play. So if he's out now, then you move everybody else up one. It's not that hard.
It's actually not official yet. So that's one that isn't official.
Because they play in the afternoon.
So if Kittle is out, you obviously bump Kmet up. What are you expecting to see from the Bears tight end this week?
What you would expect to see every week from the Bears tight end. It's going to be kind of an up and down year for Cole Kmet. It's hard to really gauge again last week because of the fact that it was the monsoon, but I think that's going to be one of Justin Fields' go-to targets. It's just a matter of how much you can actually get him the ball. Number one, that offensive line is poor. David Montgomery is a factor out of the backfield, and some of that short passing game is going to take him away. He didn't have any catches last week, but again, they had one target. They didn't throw the ball a lot. It was only 17 attempts. So I expect to see better days for Cole Kmet. I think it starts this week.
All right. AJ, we got a question here from Mark. He brings up if both guys are healthy, Mike Evans or T. Higgins full PPR. Mike Evans is active in this game. T. Higgins' status remains up in the air with that concussion. But if both are active, who do you go with?
If both are active, I'm still fearing the Marshawn Lattimore. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. I think it was like 13 yards through the games and then just shut down for 5 out of 7 of them. I would go with T. Higgins if both are active. I think he gets enough play in the way that they're going to spread that ball around in Cincinnati. I know Dallas's defense is good, but I don't expect the same showing from the offensive line for Cincinnati last week. They are a better and improved offensive line. They just have to get some time to gel.
Are they?
Another week later. Yes,
Are
they
they?
just like you said yourself, they just need time to gel. And I think another week older and another week together after
I have
game
to jump in here.
systems.
I have to jump in here because I don't want to steer people the wrong way. AJ makes a great point if maybe they're both healthy and you want to argue. You cannot start T. Higgins over Mike Evans this week because Mike Evans' game starts at 1 o'clock Eastern time. And if you decide T. Higgins, you're waiting for that injury report to come out an hour and a half before. Mike Evans is the play there. You have to start Mike Evans.
I'll give you this too. The only other idea that I had that I wanted to give for Mike Evans is it's him and Russell Gage, and that's about it. And obviously Leonard Fournette. So like as it comes to number one, he's gonna get a lot of looks. I'm just saying, Marshawn, he hasn't failed yet. He hasn't failed yet in like 7 games, and that's the part.
I mean, you could argue T. Higgins versus Mike Evans if they were both. We knew they were both playing.
Yeah.
But with the 1 o'clock game and a 4 o'clock game, you're not getting that injury report till the middle of those first games. Yeah. You have to start Mike Evans knowing that he's active first. Otherwise, unless you have some other option on your bench to go with, if T. Higgins decides not to play or can't play. The way I do things, if you're unsure about those afternoon guys and you have nobody else that plays in the afternoon, you better go with the morning guy that you know is active and playing because you could find yourself screwed late in the afternoon with nobody to play.
Well, let's take a look at the inactives and actives for week 2 in our injury report. Week 2 fantasy actives and inactives are headlined by Mike Evans, DeAndre Swift, Leonard Fournette being active. I'll also see Jameis Winston in that same game be active. But on the other side, Alvin Kamara will not be with the New Orleans Saints, as well as Michael Pittman for the Indianapolis Colts. No J.K. Dobbins. I did keep George Kittle on this inactive list until we see him officially come up as active. I'm not going to take him off the list. And no Julio Jones for the New Orleans, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, going through all the NFC South teams. That is our injury report. Pretty straightforward. We've pretty much talked about. What do you find it funny that I left George Kittle on there?
I find it funny George Kittle's on a list that they haven't even ruled the inactives and actives in yet.
Yeah, well, so far,
if you're not ruled out Friday,
right.
if you're not ruled out Friday, Mr. Producer, then you wait until Sunday when they rule the inactives actives. You can't just make
so far I'm right anyways. And if you have George Kittle, don't start him because start any other tight end but George Kittle. Don't wait until the afternoon. Don't start George Kittle.
Johnson.
Yeah, there you go. Someone else but him. Let's get into our who wants to, I'll give Aaron the sleeper and AJ the
why
streamer.
I sucked last week.
Yeah, well here's your redemption.
And now for your sleeper of the week.
All right, last week I had a big egg. I knew I should have went with the guy that's coming off of such a significant injury in KJ Hamler. He only got 1 target, didn't do anything. This week, I'm going to take advantage of the injury reports, take advantage of the guys that are lost in Tampa, and I'm going to go Russell Gage. And some people may not think it's a sleeper, but we all saw he didn't do anything last week. I think Russell Gage this week is a play that if you're fighting for somebody or you got some injuries and you needed to pick somebody up, and you went with Russell Gage, I think you could throw him in your starting lineup, and I think he'll produce. So anywhere between like 5-6 catches. I don't know if Evans is the only other person there. I think it's a good matchup. Give me some Russell Gage.
Let's do it. Let's do it. It is time for AJ Johnson's streaming defense of the week. Hop in the gondola, buddy. Let's hold hands.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Yeah. Hey, so 3 years later, I'm finally right. My streaming defense is going to be today the one Cleveland Browns defense going up against the New York Jets. It's great. We spent all off season talking about how much we really like the Jets and why we still do. Week 2 is still early enough for us to talk about how bad the Jets are probably going to be. Last week, they only put up 9 points on the board, allowed 3 sacks, 2 turnovers. This defense is deep. This defense is fierce. Myles Garrett can get after them. That offensive line for the Jets also still need time to gel with all their new pieces. I look for them to get after Joe Flacco a lot. I look for Joe Flacco to have to throw a lot, and I look for that secondary to be the secondary I thought that they would have. So if you can find the Cleveland defense probably on your waiver wire, pick them up, put them in, be happy. Streaming D, the Cleveland Bees.
I'll tell you this. If you're in a league with me, you're most likely not having the Browns defense on a waiver wire. I made sure to draft the Browns. That was like my drafting defense because Carolina first week and then the Jets this week. That was like a thing that I wanted to make sure that I had. But that's a good pick. I love the Browns defense this week against the New York Jets. Let's bring back Aaron here on the show so we can get down to business. I believe, Aaron, you won last week in the DFS play. AJ, you were not involved. You got a pass. You got a pass that week.
Such a good roster too.
Yeah, there you go. But it is a new week. Aaron, you do get to decide the draft order here. Tell us who goes.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the middle slot again. I like the middle slot. I'm gonna make Vincent pick first.
Fantastic.
And AJ pick third.
Great. All right. So if you're having me pick first here, I tried to prepare myself this week for this draft. I tried to do a little bit more better preparing this week in this draft. So I will go with Saquon Barkley as my first pick in this draft. I love what he did last week. I love what who they play in this week. They play who's the Giants play? They play Carolina.
Panthers.
We saw last week what Nick Chubb did to him. I can only imagine that Saquon Barkley does the same thing. And he's not even the most expensive running back. So it's like, give me some Saquon Barkley.
Why would he be the most expensive running back?
Because his matchup is very great, and he was the best running back in fantasy last week. There you go. That's the answer.
That's not the way DraftKings works, buddy.
I know, but he should be the most expensive back because he has the best matchup, and he was the best running back in fantasy last year. Who's next?
It's me, and I will take Christian McCaffrey in that same game. I think Christian McCaffrey is primed for more touches this week. I think they realize they need to not let Baker do what Baker does, which is ruin everything. So give the ball to Christian McCaffrey. Give me Christian McCaffrey. I will take the second most expensive running back in DraftKings, and I will be okay with that.
All right.
AJ,
I'm gonna go ahead and dub down on my running backs. I'm gonna go ahead and take Nick Chubb against the Jets. They're gonna be running the ball. That's what they're gonna do, and Nick Chubb is gonna benefit from that. And then I'm gonna take Antonio Gibson on the second pick around because I like the way they used him last week. I was in the building for that game. I saw how they like to use him. I saw when he should have been used and wasn't. I think they'll continue that. He is making sure he keeps his backfield locked down and only at 6,200. I like that idea.
Who would have thought Antonio Gibson, fantasy relevant? Is P still on the line? Where's P at? I know we've had arguments about this, man. Antonio Gibson shining. A nice pick there. I'm going to take my second running back as well, and I'm taking Javonte Williams against Houston. At home, I really, really like him. 6,500. I don't mind spending big on my running backs this week. I think it's big to get good running backs, and C-Mac and Javonte, I'll take it.
I'm gonna spend big here on my back-to-back picks. I'm gonna take Josh Allen tomorrow's game against the Tennessee Titans, and I will take Darren Waller today against the Arizona Cardinals.
Nice pick.
There's no need for analysis on Darren Waller and Josh. With Darren Waller, at least, I do think that he's a little bit less expensive than what Mark Andrews brings, and I don't really like the tight ends outside of like Mark Andrews and Darren Waller. So.
Yeah, I will take my receiver here, and I'm going to take Devontae Adams. And I'll just kind of go in that same game. I think Devontae Adams is going to be peppered with targets this season from Derek Carr. I don't think it changes in this one. Everybody was worried about his targets and his volume and what was he going to be. Devontae Adams, look, I love Justin Jefferson. Devontae Adams is still the best wide receiver in football right now. I think people need to realize that. Like, the man does not need to be schemed to get open. He is the best receiver in football. Give me some Devontae Adams.
Okay. AJ?
All right. Back to back, I'm going to do one thing I really like, and that's take A.J. Brown for Philly. Wide receiver. Had a great game last week. I think that continues. I think him and Jalen Hurts have a great rapport. And I'm going to also do this now just because I still have some decisions to make elsewhere. I'm going to go ahead and just grab Cincinnati's defense against Dallas and pick them up real quick and just lock that pick in. I know that wasn't my streamer, but I also like them too. So I'm going to grab them up there a little cheaper than the Browns on DraftKings this week, and that'll leave me some money to do some other things.
Mine's easy. I'm also taking my defense here, and I'm actually taking the Jets defense. I think we are kind of down on the Jets defense, but I think we saw last week against a really good, explosive Baltimore team that for the most part of that game, they played really, really well. They were able to shut down the run game. I think that Jets defense has a good day here against Cleveland. Give me the Jets defense for, I believe it's 2,200. I think they'll perform against Cleveland on the road.
I've got back-to-back picks. I'm going to take my number one wide receiver. I'll take A.J. Brown against the Minnesota Vikings.
No, you won't.
And I'll
You
take.
will do no such
He
thing.
just
do
did
no such
AJ
thing.
I wasn't. I'm dealing with other things here right now. I did not hear
Uh-huh.
any of you guys' picks, to be completely honest. So I'm hoping that I did not take. I don't know any of you guys' picks. So
Clearly,
just
you didn't take any of our other picks because look how
so
fast
much
we
for
stopped
being
you from
prepared. So much
Right?
for being
Yeah.
prepared.
Well, no, I am prepared. I have like a team that I want to
I don't want to hear
draft.
it. I don't want to hear it.
So
Your
well,
reasonings
then
don't mean shit to me.
if you took A.J. Brown, then I will just take the Buffalo Bills defense because that's what I originally had on my plan. And then I will take James Robinson. I'm not going to do this again to myself. If James Robinson gives me a shitty game, I'm going to go down with the ship. All hail James Robinson.
I can't with this guy, man.
You said that last week when I tried to draft James Robinson, then I pivoted and he had a great game. So
He didn't have a great game. He scored 2 touchdowns, and you still would have
That's a
lost
great
in
game.
fantasy.
that's a great game.
Oh my god, I can't with this guy, man. Okay,
he looked pretty good.
He looked okay. He looked okay. And I wasn't knocking it. It was just funny to me. It's just his emotions that he deals with, when it's his own team. At my tight end position, I'm going to go with Tyler Higbee against Atlanta. I really like what Tyler Higbee is going to be able to do. I liked how he got a little bit involved late in that game against Buffalo. Wanted a cheaper tight end, but somebody that could still do something, and I think Tyler Higbee's that play. So I'm going to go Tyler Higbee.
All right, back-to-back picks here. I'm going to go ahead and lock my tight end as well. I'm going to get the Muth. Pat Fryermuth looked fantastic last week. I really liked the way they peppered him with targets, and I'm thinking they'll do the same thing against New England. And what would it be for my first week back if I didn't give you guys exactly what you wanted from me? We're going to take my favorite quarterback in the world, Carson Wentz, at 5,800 for fantasy with Antonio Gibson against the Detroit Lions. If there's one more week you can play Carson Wentz, I think this will be it. So I'm going to lock that in and tie him up with Antonio Gibson to be happy.
All right. I am going to take Allen Lazard as a wide receiver. I think him being back, I think Aaron Rodgers is on that mission of I need somebody I can trust. Give me Allen Lazard against the Bears tonight at home. Big bounce back game for Green Bay.
I will take Isaiah McKenzie and Tyreek Hill as my back-to-back picks. I'll take my 2 wide receivers there. Isaiah McKenzie. I know Gabe Davis' status is up in the air for tomorrow. Even if he does play, I still like Isaiah McKenzie against the Tennessee Titans defense.
That's cute. I like it. I am going to take Curtis Samuel. 4,600 against a bad Detroit Lions defense. Give me some Curtis Samuel there. I will take Curtis Samuel.
On the other side of that game, I will take Amon-Ra St. Brown at 6,500, the number one receiver. And then I will also take Cortland Sutton against the Houston Texans defense and call that a day. I got my flex pick left, and hopefully I'll get somebody good. Hopefully.
Yeah, I went pretty top heavy here. So my quarterback, oh, this is tough. AJ stole one of my picks. I have to do it. I'm gonna stick with my guns. I'm gonna go Trey Lance. I almost pivoted, but I'm gonna go Trey Lance here at home against Seattle for 5,700, and I'll just have to find a bargain play.
I will take my last two picks here. I will go with I have to do it in many fantasy leagues, so I'm going to just double down here and make sure I'm really rooting for him. I'm going to take Paris Campbell against the Jags. I am top heavy as well with Josh Allen, Darren Waller, and Saquon Barkley. So I'm going to take Paris Campbell, and then I'm going to take Michael Carter against Cleveland.
I am going to go deep. Brashad Perriman for Tampa Bay. I'm going to go against the Saints, Brashad Perriman for 3,200, and to round out my lineup.
AJ, last pick here.
I don't love it, but I like it. It's definitely a dart throw. Everybody else ahead of him, I'm like, I'm going to go. All right, give me 2 seconds. I'm sorry. Let me just double check this, and then I'll tell you exactly if I'm going to do it or not. Oh, I guess they're going to make me do it. Ugh, gross. I'm not going to do it. Okay. For my flex pick, just going to go with the number one guy, someone that I think can get some targets against a pretty decent defense. This is ugly. Jacoby Myers, and I'm just going to throw it away. Ugh, gross. Do I have to? Is it stuck?
I mean, that's your call. You have to.
There's no one else after me, right? There's nobody else after me.
No.
But why you guys have so much trouble picking your own guys?
It's the last one, and because here's the thing, I want to go.
If you don't like it, take somebody else.
I want to go Nico Collins. I think he could have a better day.
So
I'm gonna go with Nico Collins.
Christ,
gonna get
you and Vinny. I don't know who's
it. It has been. I was rolling with my picks, other than the fact that I didn't hear half of your picks, but I digress. All right, so you went with Nico Collins. My team is Josh Allen at quarterback, Saquon Barkley, J-Rob, Paris Campbell, Tyreek Hill, Isaiah McKenzie, Darren Waller, Michael Carter, and the Buffalo Bills defense. I feel much better about this team than I did last week. AJ, what do you got?
All right, at the top, Carson Wentz at the QB, Nick Chubb and Antonio Gibson for my running backs. I came in with the Brown boys, Amon-Ra and AJ as a receiver. Cortland Sutton is my third. Give me the Booth as my tight end. Nico Collins in the flex. Get in the end zone for me, buddy. And then the D is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals against Cooper Rush and the Dallas Cowboys.
And the championship team, the winning team, again, is Trey Lance at quarterback, Christian McCaffrey, Javonte Williams at running back, Devontae Adams, Alan Lazard, and Curtis Samuel at wide receiver, Tyler Higbee's.
Oh, what a great team.
Such
a championship team that can't even talk about it.
My team is so secretive; it doesn't even want to be announced.
Yeah, that's what.
I don't know where did I leave off at.
It doesn't. I think he left.
Right, let me try this again.
Yeah,
Trey Lance, Christian McCaffrey, Javonte Williams, Devontae Adams, Alan Lazard, Curtis Samuel, Tyler Higbee at tight end. Brashad Perriman scores a 60-yard touchdown today against New Orleans, and the Jets defense against Cleveland.
I feel like I'm missing out here. You guys had like rhyming name, like AJ had the Brown boys. You have Javonte and Devontae. I don't have any type of rhyming or any type of scheming going on my team. That might spell disaster for me, but we'll see. But that does, though, for another episode of Pigskins and Pancakes. Good luck to everybody in your matchups this week, except for the ones that are playing me. It is myself against Aaron in the Sack League. So it's a big week. It's a big week.
You already got off to a good start. Travis Kelce didn't do anything.
Yeah, I had Mecole Hardman do decent. Well, I don't know how to judge these low end flex plays when we have a roster this big, but I digress. Tomorrow we'll be back again live at 10 a.m. Eastern time for a recap of Sunday's action and so much more. Until then, though, for the returning AJ Johnson and for my best friend Aaron Mukes, I am me. We will see you tomorrow.
Peace out.
Oh, AJ, you done?
Bye.
You done?
We know we were a much better team than we came up representing ourselves.